from East Durham College. I'm the vocational IT lead here, so I lead all the T-level and level 2 and 3 digital courses. In my spare time, I also run a web design and app building company, and recently launched like an AI newsletter to kind of furnish people with information about developments and updates in AI, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm just going to share a PowerPoint with you all, which will kind of take you through what we're going to be looking at. So give me a nod if and when you can see a PowerPoint open in front of you. Hopefully it'll be soon.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. So as Laura said, there's a few distinct sections in this session. So if you've got any questions, there will be quite clear points where you can just fire something over. Otherwise, if you want to just dump something in the meeting chat, I'll kind of get to answering them as and when I can. At the end of the session, I'll be sharing the PowerPoint, and some of the things that we're going to be looking at, I'll be able to generate shareable links for you, so you can kind of have a bit of a play about with the software and what I create as well, which you hopefully will find helpful. And I'm going to send over some like how-to guides to get things set up if you want to have a go at some of the things that we discuss. So what I'm going to be looking at today is just a very, very brief chat about AI sort of in mid-2025, what's out there, what's emerging, and a bit about how I personally use AI day to day in my job. Then I'm going to go on to looking a little bit about best practice, which is going to be focusing on prompt engineering. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, I will go into it in some detail. Then we'll look at some software that I use day to day. So primarily that's going to be something called NotebookLM, which is some software from Google, and some elements of ChatGPT, which you probably have all heard of. And then just to close off the session, we'll look at some of the ethical issues surrounding AI, which I know can be a little bit scary. So it's good to kind of be aware of them. So the point of the session is just to talk about how to use AI kind of deliberately and safely and effectively. Use it as a resource, something which can help you work more efficiently, more effectively, and not use it as a novelty. So I'll look at some time-saving software and good habits to get into. The whole point of this is to give you a bit of an understanding of AI if you're not too sure about it, and also make you aware of like any risks and limitations, whilst also kind of looking to raise your confidence. So just to get us started, so if you want to just give me a quick yes or no, a thumbs up in chat. Who currently uses AI on a regular basis? So a few of you so far. Excellent. So most of you have got some idea of what it is. And some of you have got an idea of how it can be useful. So I personally started using AI a couple of years ago when some software called DALL-E first emerged, which is an image generating software, which is made by OpenAI, who make ChatGPT. And since then, I've been looking for ways to incorporate it into my day-to-day work in a way which isn't a novelty. So I've got quite a big background in using it. So as you know, a lot of you probably aware, AI is now embedded into everyday tools that you will use day to day. So Microsoft 365 has got Copilot built into it, which is Microsoft's AI tool. If you use Google Docs, that kind of thing, you'll find that has now got Google Gemini built into it, which is Google's AI software. So even if you are fundamentally terrified of AI, there isn't really any getting away from it. It's going to be increasingly built into what you're using every day in your work. So having a decent understanding of it will be really helpful. Here in education, we're integrating AI for things like lesson planning, for automated marking, which I will explain later. It's not cheating. Plagiarism detecting and learner support, all of which are, for different reasons, incredibly helpful. And it's used in areas like healthcare, law, logistics, media. So everything pretty much, is going to have an element of AI increasingly going forward. Oops. So AI software now uses something called is now multimodal, which means that AI can understand various kinds of media. So it knows what's in front of it if you play a video, if you show an image, if you show text, which means it can increasingly sort of help you in what it is that you're doing. And some software, and this is what I'm going to be looking at today, like custom GPTs and NotebookLM and ChatGPT plugins allow you to tailor AI to your own very, very, very specific and particular needs, which can be really helpful. And if anybody happens to use software like Canva, you'll notice even that's got AI built into it now. If anybody has got the Canva for business or education plan, you'll notice something new in there called Canva AI, which can literally do anything for you. It can build games, it can build animated education experiences. It's really quite impressive to look at. Definitely worth exploring. From my experience day to day, I use AI to help me plan things. So for instance, next year I am changing how I deliver certain modules to my students. I'm looking to combine 3 or 4 modules down into one single project, which better replicates how students would do this kind of work in a real business environment. And I've been using AI just to help me assess the logistics of actually structuring the work like that, and it's arguably saved me a lot of hours of my life. I use it to help me when I'm marking. So once I've marked students' work, I will put it through some custom AI that I've made to make sure that it gives me backup to make sure that all of the outcomes have been met and helps me to point out any outcomes that I might have missed when marking. So it just gives me that reassurance there. And as I'm going to demonstrate in a little while, I use software called NotebookLM to help provide really, really good resources for my students to help them with revision and with retention of knowledge. So it's how I use AI day to day is to make me a lot more efficient. And I think that's where it is really quite interesting and fundamental. So as we go through, if you do have any questions, just put it in the chat. I am aware that I may talk about things which I am so used to that I assume it's second nature. And so if I do discuss anything that you don't really know about, just feel free to ask me for clarification in chat, and I'll do that straight away. So one thing to make abundantly clear is that AI isn't magic. It's the results and impacts you get from using AI are generally only as good as the information and interactions you have with it. It's not a matter of going into AI and saying, tell me about this thing, and it will give you exactly what you need to know in exactly the right format that you want it to be in. It's very, very important that you learn how to communicate with AI to get those results that you want. But I'm going to talk to you briefly about it, and then I've got a couple of examples to show you the difference you can get from AI by just changing how you talk to it and how you give it different kinds of information. So this is essentially prompt engineering. So it's how to achieve more with your interactions with AI. So for those of you who don't know, prompt engineering is the practice of writing clear, structured instructions to get accurate and useful outputs from an AI tool. So it's being clear with what you're wanting. AI isn't good with very, very general prompts or questions. You need to be quite specific about it. So a good prompt can include a lot of information, like assign it a role. So if you say to AI, you are a teacher on a T-level digital course, it will structure its responses based on that format. Give it specific context, give it specific task. So for instance, there, act as a lesson planner, create a 60-minute lesson for level 2 students on cybersecurity. So you're giving it a time-limited task. You're giving it a level that it needs to aim its response to, and you're telling it it's a lesson planner. The quality of the prompt that you give directly affects the quality of the response. So vague prompts lead to answers which are either too vague, or they try to convey far, far, far too much information because they haven't got any limitations, whereas specific prompts produce more relevant and structured outputs. One thing that you can do with AI is you can refine prompts through a series of questions. If anybody has used AI like Google Gemini or ChatGPT, you may notice that if you ask it a question, but that question has a lot of different points to it, it tends to get a bit confused. Or the further it goes through what you're asking, the less detailed the response will be. It tends to be very, very good at responding to the first thing that you ask, but then any other elements of that same prompt, it will gradually just seem to lose interest in. But you can refine your prompt as you go through. So you can ask it a question, and then you can ask it follow-up questions based on that, and until you get the answer that you actually want. So prompt engineering is a form of instructional design. It's where you use natural language to guide AI. And certainly in America at the moment, prompt engineering is the fastest growing job in the digital sector, because the need for people who know how to use AI and use it properly is massively, massively in demand, because that can fundamentally change how you actually interact with AI. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of good and bad prompt engineering. So I'm just going to share another screen with you. Share window. So hopefully in about 2 seconds, you will see a different window appear. Right, can you see the window with ChatGPT open? Give me a thumbs up. Excellent. So this is an example of a very, very vague prompt. So it's simply a prompt which says plan out a lesson on cybersecurity. You've given it no context. You've given it no real detail. All you've done is given that one sentence, which doesn't really provide the AI with any information about what it wants you to do. So because of that, the response it's given you, it's fine and it is relevant. It's given you a 60-minute cybersecurity plan, but the audience is very, very general. So students, employees, general public. So it's done this, and the audience is anybody, because you haven't specified what the audience is. And the information that it's giving you is quite vague. You know, to a degree, it's fine, but it's quite vague and quite general. So introduction to cybersecurity, common cybersecurity threats, cyber hygiene, and it goes through all the key points. But this, in theory, is nothing that you couldn't get from just doing a very, very general Google search. And the whole reason for that is that this is a very, very, very vague initial prompt you've given it there, plan a cybersecurity session. As I say, AI isn't magic. It can't take the context from that. So it's just basing it purely on information that you've given it, and all information it is give me some information on cybersecurity. Where AI starts to be genuinely useful is if you look on the left-hand side of this screen now, which hopefully you can see, maybe small, I have given this a more in-depth prompt. I'm still asking exactly the same thing, but the prompt is a lot more in-depth. I'm delivering a cybersecurity module as part of the OCL Level 3 Extended Diploma in IT. I would like you to create a lesson plan for Learning Outcome 1, understand what is meant by cybersecurity. It's a 2-hour lesson, including an introductory lecture, offer some suggestions for individual research tasks, paired tasks, and some revision questions to be answered. To ensure this content is relevant, I've included a copy of the unit specification. So as well as being more detailed with what I'm asking it to do, to better guarantee that I'm getting useful information, I've uploaded the unit specification as a PDF there. And because of that, the first thing that the chat has done is basically clarify what it's going to be doing. So based on the Level 3 Extended Diploma specification, here's a structured 2-hour lesson for Learning Outcome 1, understand what is meant by cybersecurity, and it's told me what the other outcomes are within that section. So 1.1, cybersecurity aims, 1.2, types of cybersecurity, and 1.3, the importance of cybersecurity. And then it's gone through it in a very, very organized and structured fashion. It's given me suggestions for timings and some starter activities. It's given me key points for each of those definite outcomes that are mentioned up here. And it's just a much more structured but much more relevant body of information than the general prompt. And it's all because I've been much, much more specific with what I'm asking it. And at the heart, when you're using this kind of AI, so sort of AI chatbots, that is the key thing, is being really specific and giving it the information that it needs to best do what you want it to do. Until relatively recently, ChatGPT didn't really have the ability to hook into the web to search for anything. So its information, its knowledge base, was fixed on a period of time. I think it was like November 2023, which was when this iteration of GPT was released. So, for instance, at the Automotive Alliance, if you were using that version of GPT and you were asking for some specifications or standards of a particular brand of car, and that car was released in June 2024, unless you provide that information to it, it would struggle to give you that information because its knowledge base was fixed on a period of time before that was released. Now ChatGPT can actively search the web, which does make things easier. But personally, for my own peace of mind, I like to upload the information to it so I know that it's working from relevant information. Because as we'll discuss later on, AI still has a tendency to essentially make things up at times. But yeah, be specific, tell it exactly what you want it to do. Don't just assume if you do a very, very vague prompt, it will automatically know, right, this is what Andrew is looking for, and we will do it exactly how he wants. Assume it knows nothing and give it the information that it needs. So once I have created like the bones of that lesson plan, I can review it and I can go away and flesh out the details myself and create a really, really good and comprehensive lesson. This isn't me getting AI to do the work for me. It's just me essentially using AI to help me structure the lesson, to help me make sure I'm including all the elements that are in there. I'm still going away and putting together a PowerPoint, putting together activities for students to do. This is just something which helps me with that initial sort of planning process, which again, it saves me quite a lot of time and it allows me to focus on stuff which which is going to be of more use to the students. So I will put together a little prompt engineering best practice guide, which I'll share with you, Lauren. You can share with people. And additionally, at the end of the session, there's a link to my newsletter. And one of the issues I put out already is about prompt engineering and putting together like a prompt library. So that might be useful to you. But the takeaway from this section is be specific. Give the AI some context as to what you're looking to get out of it and why, and you will get some useful information. But at all times, do not assume AI is correct. When I get that information, it spits out to me. The first thing I need to do is make sure that all the things it suggested to me are correct and relevant, because there is a chance that it will make things up or it will misunderstand things. So the onus is still on you as the human involved in this process to make sure that what's out there is correct. But it is, if done right, a very, very useful and time-saving use of AI in getting your prompts right. Before I move on to the next section, has anybody got any questions about prompt engineering? Yes, Stuart.
Why does it make stuff up?
Because AI really isn't good at saying, I can't do that.
Oh, so it's got an ego.
A little bit. So AI is prone to something called hallucinations. Nobody quite knows why it happens, but it will essentially make things up. It is getting much better. But my partner works in digital education as well, in higher education. And about a year ago, they did like a little test of AI. So they asked it to produce a degree level biology research paper that included references and bibliographies and stuff. And at that point, I think of the 10 references it included, 8 of them were for publications that didn't exist.
Wow.
But it looked really authentic.
I know a lot of people that make stuff up, but you've just rained on me parade there, like.
But it is getting a lot better. But yeah, it's just not good at saying I can't do that. So for instance, with me, I asked ChatGPT to help me create some macros for Excel, because Excel still terrifies me to a degree. And it told me it'd done it. I could export it into Excel. I tried exporting it, it didn't work, and we had a back and forth of about 15 different questions with me saying, this hasn't worked, can you redo it? And it would say, yes, of course. The problem was, I will redo it. And after probably about half an hour, I just said, you can't do this, can you? And it at that point, it said, actually, no, my skill set doesn't allow me to do this at the moment. I do apologize. But I had to explicitly ask it the question.
But Alexa just is very honest. She'll just say, I don't know the answer to that.
The current version of Alexa is, there's a new version of Alexa launching in a couple of weeks, which is more linked into generative AI, and you will find then it is more reluctant to tell you that it can't do things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So watch this space. So it's just something to be really aware of, is that the onus is very, very, very much on you still to make sure that what the result you're given is correct and is relevant. You shouldn't ever just assume that it's correct, because occasionally it's not. So I'm going to start now looking at a couple of pieces of software that I use. Before we begin, has anybody used a software called NotebookLM before? I take your silence as a general no. Excellent. So a couple of you have, most of you don't seem to have. Personally, this bit of software, I believe, is the best bit of AI software out there today. And happily, it is completely free to use. Some of my students have told me that this bit of software has completely, fundamentally changed the way that they learn. I think it is essentially that powerful. So again, I'm just going to share my screen and I will talk you through what NotebookLM is. That one. Right, so again, hopefully you are all able to see NotebookLM screen. So NotebookLM is a software from Google. Apparently Notebook, the LM stands for learning machine. Where this differs from things like ChatGPT is that NotebookLM works purely on the information that you provide to it. And I'll go through what that means in a minute. But essentially, it means that you can be certain that the information it's giving you is correct because you have provided the base, you've essentially provided the knowledge base to it. So as I said, NotebookLM is free to use. There is 2 levels of it. There is the free version and the pro version. The only major difference between the 2 is that the pro version allows you to upload more sources into each of your notebooks. So if I go to create new, the first thing that NotebookLM asks you to do is upload some information to it. And that's what it's going to use to base its information on. So it could be you upload some PDFs to it. It could be that you hook it up to your Google Drive. You could give it some website links or some YouTube links, or you could just paste some text into it. So you're providing the information that this entire interaction is going to be based on. So because of that, you can be sure the information is correct. And as I say, free version, you can upload up to 50 sources. With the paid version, you can upload up to 300 sources. So you can make a really big resource for yourself. So once you have uploaded your information, it will create your notebook for you. So each of these are notebooks based on different things, primarily that I teach. So I also teach GCSE history. So I've got various notebooks based on different elements of that syllabus. So I'm just going to go into to a degree. I haven't actually tried. Sorry, I'm just answering this question from JB John. So I haven't actually tried uploading anything knowingly confidential. So I'm not sure if there's any limitations on that. But when you create this notebook, unless you actively choose to share it with anybody, this is something which exists only for you. So it's not published anywhere. So it is confidential to that degree. But yeah, I'm not sure if it will limit any confidential information in the same way that, say, Outlook does when you try to send an attachment, and it will tell you that there's issues with it because it's there's dates of birth and stuff on there. But yeah, unless you actively choose to share this with anybody else, what you create is solely for your own personal use. So let's just pick Nazi Germany's economic policy, 1933 to 1939. So this is quite a simple notebook. There's only one source, and basically what I've done is there was a few documents which the students had for this particular section of the module, and I just pasted it in as my source. Once you do that, the first thing that NotebookLM does automatically, you don't have to do anything, is just create a brief summary of that document. That can be quite useful. If you've got 30 or 40 documents uploaded, just being able to get a quick 1 or 2 paragraph summary of each one, it can help you work out what is going to be useful for a particular element of the task that you're doing. And then if you move over to this right-hand panel, you can use NotebookLM to create a study guide. So this is this. So it gives you some short answer quizzes, which you've got answers to it. It gives you suggested essay questions, and it gives you a glossary of key terms. And these are all questions and terms based on the information that you have provided. So from an education perspective, that is an incredibly useful revision tool. You can also get it to generate some frequently asked questions, which again is useful because, when you're a teacher, you do tend to get asked the same questions over and over again. So having these FAQs can be really, really, really useful. You can use it to create a timeline, which it generates pretty much instantly. So it gives you a timeline of events and a key cast of characters. And it also now has the ability to generate a mind map based on that information. It takes a few seconds, but if we click to open it, it creates an interactive mind map, which from a student perspective, that's really good for putting together revision flashcards and for seeing how things link together, and for seeing the wider context. So that is incredibly useful. And you can also use it as a regular chatbot, so I can just ask it questions and it will give me answers based on the information that I have uploaded. So tell me the 4-year plan. And it will look at the information you provided and give you the key points of it. So very, very, very useful. Now, from my perspective in education, a lot of my students have issues digesting a lot of text-based content. It's something that they are not keen on doing, and they have difficulty doing. Where NotebookLM is genuinely incredibly useful is that you can create essentially an interactive podcast. This is a conversational podcast. So if anybody's used social media and used TikTok to, create these horrible robotic voiceovers, this is a world away from that. It creates a fully interactive 2-person conversation. So if you've all got your volumes on, which hopefully you have, otherwise you can't hear me, this is a fully AI podcast audio overview, which talks about Nazi Germany's economic policy. So that's 2 people having a conversation, and you can just listen to that. You can download it, put it on your phone, and you can consume that information as you want. You can also edit it to make it longer if you want to. Where it's incredibly useful as well, and this is a new feature-ish, is you can join in the podcast. So you can click to interrupt them, ask it a question either by typing in or by speaking, and it will change the podcast to answer your question. So essentially, you've got 2 people there who can talk to you and give you information. So I think that is incredible, and I think it's really useful. And this is something which has changed the way that quite a few of my students work. I do have some students who, like I say, that they're not keen on reading massive bodies of text. Some of them, I've got students who've got things like dyslexia, and they just have issues reading. So having this is a game changer for them because they know that it's giving them correct information, and it's really, really, really useful. But this doesn't just have to be something used purely from an academic perspective. And this might be something that the Automotive Alliance people find useful. So I am a car owner, and I also know very, very, very little about cars. It's an ideal combination. So what I have done in NotebookLM is I've got a PDF version of my Hyundai i10 owner's manual, uploaded it into here, and now I have an interactive chatbot which can answer any question about maintenance of my car. So if I ask it about tyre pressures, it will look at the owner's manual that it's got uploaded into it, and after a few seconds it will tell me what my tyre pressures should be, assuming the internet's working as it should do, which I don't think it is. But this is quite useful, I think, because a car manual is quite it's a long document. Nobody likes thumbing through it. So just uploading into here and be able to ask it questions, and it will give you information that it's pulled from the owner's manual. I think is really, really, really useful. You can do that for for anything where you've got a PDF version of an instruction manual. You can throw it in there, and it will answer questions on it for you. So it's a really, really, really useful useful thing. What I will do is I'm going to share a couple of these notebooks. I'll just send the links over to you, Laura, and then you can share them with everybody in chat, so you can kind of go into a NotebookLM notebook and just have a play about with it and see what it can and can't do. Hopefully you'll see that it is pretty useful. And as I say, it's completely free to use. There are mobile apps which you can download for Android and iOS devices, so you can use it wherever you happen to be. So it's very, very useful. The next bit of software that I would like to show you is something called custom GPTs. So does anybody here actually pay for the premium version of ChatGPT? So just stick it in the chat if you do. Now, most people won't. There's not real. Most people don't use it enough to feel like they need to do this. I do, because I'm a geek, but it can be really, really useful. So with the paid version, obviously the main difference is that you get a lot more use of ChatGPT. If you've got the free version, you'll know that after a few interactions with it, it will kind of tell you that that's your lot until tomorrow. With the paid version, that's essentially unlimited. You also get access to different things like ChatGPT's sort of video creation software and everything. But one thing that you also get, which is really useful, is the ability to create custom GPTs. To a degree, it works a bit like NotebookLM, in that you're creating a custom GPT that is a personalized version of ChatGPT that you put your own instructions in, upload your own documents, and dictate how ChatGPT behaves. So it allows you to specify, what kind of tone you want the responses to be. You can assign it a role. and it will assume this role for the entirety of that the existence of that custom GPT. So for instance, with me, I could say your role is as a lecturer on my course and adopt that tone, and every interaction I have, it will assume it's the lecturer. It's very, very simple to create, and I'm just going to show you it because I think demonstrating it in real time will probably be more useful. So assuming we're going to load in. So this here is a custom GPT that I have made, and it's an OCR3 lesson planner. So this is a planner which helps me create lessons for my level 3 IT course. So I've got it configured here, given it a title, given it a description, given it some instructions. So this OCR Lesson 3 planner is designed for educators in digital IT fields, offers a formal professional interaction, provides concise initial suggestions and detailed follow-up suggestions for session plans, excels in analysing course requirements and learning outcomes and tailoring lesson plans. So I've told it exactly what I want it to do. I've given it some general potential conversation starters, and then I've uploaded the unit specification of the course to it so it knows what it's working from. And you can also, if you want to, tell it it can hook into sort of other things like web searches and stuff like that. And you can specify what version of ChatGPT you want it to use, but I never do that. So based on that, I can then ask it questions, suggest some start activities for my learners, and it will give me some responses. And it is pulling the information, again, purely from the sources that I've uploaded to it. So these suggestions that it's given me here, they're not, not spurious, they're not random. It is looking at the lesson content, looking at the module makeup and suggesting some relevant start outcomes. So again, this is something which for me as an educator, it saves me time. I'm still going to take this and create these exercises, discuss them in more depth and provide information to my learners. This has just given me a really, really useful starting point for what I can do in my lesson. So in addition to custom GPTs that you make yourself, if you've got the paid version, this might also be in the free version now, there is essentially a custom GPT store, which is things that other people have made, which you can go into, and it is, an AI chatbot for a very, very specific task. So there's things for education, things for business, there's things to help you book holidays, to find hotels, there's all sorts of things in here, but they're very, 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 very focused GPTs. So if anybody is interested in astrology, you can use this custom GPT to give you like customized birth charts, that kind of thing. So potentially quite useful. But again, don't assume all this is correct, especially if it's a GPT that you yourself haven't made. One other quick thing I want to just discuss about ChatGPT before I start looking at some of the downsides of AI quickly before we all leave, is it's now got something in it called routines. So this is essentially the ability to create regular tasks and activities. So for my AI newsletter that I make, and I'm just trying to fill time hoping that the page actually loads in. Yeah. What I've asked ChatGPT to do is every Monday to create some content for me, which I use purely for information purposes, which summarizes the last week of key AI news in a very, very concise way. So it's telling me that each week it's going to create an AI in Education weekly briefing, and it's going to give me monthly tool and platform tracker. It's going to give me information on UK policy and AI ethics and some information on prompt additions. So it's told me what each of these things will entail, and I've looked at that and said, could you begin preparing now? Would you be able to prepare 3 versions, bullet summary, a narrative overview, and a newsletter ready section? So it's given me the summary of key AI developments. It's given me a general narrative overview and where it's got the information from. And it's given me some details that I could include in my weekly newsletter. And then it's telling me how I go about receiving this information. The downside of this is that at the moment, ChatGPT doesn't hook up very well to things like to-do lists or calendars. It's starting to, if anybody uses like a task manager / to-do list software called, I think it's AnyDo, that now hooks up to ChatGPT, so you can automate the process. So every Monday, that software will automatically ask ChatGPT to provide you with your AI summary. Whereas for me, I use Outlook and the Microsoft Suite, so I will need to remember to go in each Monday and just say, give me this week's AI briefing, and it will tell me what it is. So if I just right, hasn't worked. Brilliant. I think I may have broke ChatGPT, but I can share this this with you as well, and you'll get an idea. But it does mean that, you know, if there's any key developments that I miss out on just in my general reading each week, hopefully this will catch it. And before I start producing like my next newsletter edition, I've got all the information I need, or anything fundamentally important that I need to include in my newsletter. So it is very useful. And obviously you can create tasks or routines for absolutely anything. But again, the key is to be quite specific with what it is that you are doing. So as we are running out of time, the final thing I want to look at is just some downsides / ethical issues surrounding AI, because there are a lot of them, unfortunately. So as we discussed earlier, AI really isn't very good at telling you it can't do something, and it does occasionally provide misinformation, because what you've got to remember is that the AI is only really as good as the information that it was used to train it to create it in the first place. So, you know, as some of you may have noticed over the past few days, if you happen to use Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI, that has recently been retrained to be less woke. And what that means is that for the past few days, that AI has been very, very, very much pro-Hitler, and it's forced X to remove a lot of tweets around that because of the information that it was trained on. So there is issues surrounding that. And that also takes in the idea of bias, the risks of bias. If an AI is released which is trained purely on extremist right-wing literature, then by default that AI itself will generally give extremist right-wing answers, because that's the only information source that it's working from. In education, one of the biggest issues we confront is over-reliance. Certainly from a student perspective, it would be very, very easy for students to use AI to do a lot of their course, especially in the digital field. The best I can do as a lecturer is preach and teach, ethical and responsible use of AI. Teach students that it's used as a research assistant, as something to assist them, but it's not something which is going to do the work for them, and also make them aware of the consequences of misuse of it. There is also issues surrounding sort of digital literacy and the digital divide. You shouldn't assume that each student has the ability to access this kind of software. If students don't have access to good internet at home, if they don't have a smartphone, it's going to impede how they can use it. So from an education perspective, I shouldn't and don't teach a lesson assuming students by default have access to this, because it may not be the case, and that's something you should always keep in mind. There are quite serious environmental considerations. AI is a massive, massive energy user. So because of that, it shouldn't be used frivolously, because each time you ask AI a question, it uses a lot of information. Sam Altman, the guy who runs OpenAI, he has said that simply by people saying thank you at the end of an interaction with AI, which in turn leads to a response from AI, that has cost tens of millions of pounds in energy use, because of the effort it takes for AI to respond to your thank you. So every interaction you have with AI has a cost consequence and has an environmental consequence attached to it. You've probably seen on the news and read about the massive data centers that are being built around the world. How these are using a lot of energy, using a lot of water. So there are serious environmental considerations for AI use, because a lot of data centers still use dirty energy as such, that don't really take advantage of renewables. So there is a serious issue there. And the final point is that you, as the person using AI, I very much include myself in this, has a big responsibility to be aware of the software that I'm using. I have a way of working that I will only expose students to any AI software if I can explain what it is and where it's come from. If I'm not sure of what this software is, I am not going to show it to my students, because occasionally there are examples of poor AI, or of AI which actually isn't what you think it is. For instance, there was a software called Builder AI, which raised, I believe, hundreds of millions of dollars in stakeholder funding. And about 2 months ago, it was revealed that it wasn't actually AI at all. It was 3,000 coders and programmers based in data centers. I think it was in India, who were then answering all the questions that were coming through to that bit of software. So you, as the user, need to have an understanding of what the software is that you are using before you either A, expose other people to it, or B, use it as a basis to help you with your work. Because it's not all AI is equal. And that is 11:58. So I am going to wrap things up there. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand now or shoot something over in the chat.
Can I just ask, which software do you recommend for